Welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wealth Podcast. I'm Alex Robertson, and this week's episode we're going to be discussing a topic that keeps coming up time and time again in all the interviews that I've been doing recently, is ultimately the importance of mindset and being able to achieve great things within business. And in order to discuss this topic, I've brought our resident mindset guru, Mr. Laurie Duncan, my business partner, into the call. Welcome, Laurie.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. You never bring me on.
I know. This is an obvious one as well within your wheelhouse, because you are our resident mindset guy, and mindset is just continually every conversation I have with any entrepreneur or anybody that's achieving anything serious in business, there is always some form of discussion about mindset. It's not the sexiest topic, but every time we start a training course, one of the first things we're going to be discussing is mindset, because we realise for anyone to get on in business, there's going to be a lot of mental hurdles, and the way that people are designed to get over to be able to achieve anything, whether it's building a backlight portfolio, building a business, or even building your wealth and taking control of your own money, and not just spending because you want to buy something to make yourself feel better. Those sort of mindset things as humans we have challenges with every single day. So I think it's something that I'd like to go a bit deeper on, because we've kind of skimmed the surface in a lot of chats, but I wanted to go a bit deeper on mindset. So let's start with your mindset journey. Where you were with it and the journey that you've been through our business and our experience in the last 5 years.
Yeah, man. Well, about 5 years ago, this would have been the type of thing that I just ripped the piss out of people for talking about, right? I was actually the guy that was like kind of just, I would kind of go out my way to like make a point of, someone talking about this kind of hippie bullshit. And it's actually quite fascinating for me to think about my own journey, because I'm just so different now, but I think, it's the same principle with any kind of new topic, any subject. Like, if you've not been exposed to that type of knowledge, how can you possibly be expected to kind of try and implement it? Yeah. And that's whether it's like mindset stuff, or it's the property stuff, or if you're going to start investing in crypto or whatever it is. It's like you need that knowledge to then go and implement it in your life, to start seeing if it works, like whatever it is. And now, massive role reversal. I've studied a lot of different things. I've been on training courses specific around the whole mindset thing, and I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about the mind. I've learned a lot about the way to kind of control thoughts, how to deal with emotion, things like focus and belief and all this type of stuff. But it's really just through self-development, right? I mean, when I first heard about this type of stuff, I just found it quite interesting. And then over the years, I've constantly been like seeking out new things, new ideas, new books, different kind of subjects. My most recent subject you might have seen on social media is this frequency analysis, all these different chakra type frequencies, For me, you sitting here talking about chakra frequencies, I just can't believe I'm even talking about it. But the reason I'm talking about it is because, I've tried a lot of different things over the years, and every time I try something new and I implement it into my life, I find that it improves the output, it improves the performance in whatever it is I'm trying to do. And that's been a gradual progression. I don't think I'll ever stop learning that. I don't think I'll ever stop being into that now. And now, as or the listeners might know, I've got my kind of daily routine where I do my breathing, my meditation, my stretching, even stretching. I mean, it's weird that I'm into stretching, big bulky guy, but I love a bit of stretching, But that's because the whole stretching routines thing has pushed me mentally. And for me to be able to stay in some of these poses, I might talk about this in a bit more detail later on or whatever as well, but to be in it's a state of discomfort, it's a state of physical discomfort. And the only way you can stay in that place is if you can control your mind, because your mind the whole fucking time is telling you to break out that pose and break out the situation. And it doesn't matter whether it's the stretching stuff, or it's like pushing yourself on a run, or some other type of physical activity, or it's a business situation.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of control that mind, manipulate the output rather than just reacting, Yeah. It's you telling your mind rather than your mind telling you. That's probably the kind of biggest takeaway I've got from all this different stuff, but definitely, man, I was never like this before. And it's just fascinating to me how different I am now.
It's strange for me to hear that because, obviously we were friends from really our early 20s. But, it's not like we were in the pub or on one of these crazy trips we used to do talking about mindset and views on it. It's not like I was working closely with you and then we'd catch up, we'd drink, we'd go to football games, we'd have a laugh, play a bit of poker.
Yeah.
You don't get into those types of discussions. So I've only ever really known you closely as this guy that's in front of us. I never really knew the guy before that who would have been kind of more skeptical of all that stuff. And the thing that interests me more than anything is when we started our entrepreneurship journey, and obviously we were talking back and forward a lot well before we started working together. But you seem to have dived into the mindset stuff quite early. Whilst I was focused on, I need to learn everything about property, you kind of figured this whole thing of the first step is to master the mindset, and I kind of done it the other way around because I thought, let's just learn everything about property, start doing it and think, fuck, this is hard. There's some mental battles to get over here and then take a step back and start looking into it. But you seem to be ahead of the curve on that. Was there anything that, drove you to that point? Was there a moment where you think, fuck, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm really going to have to get in the mindset thing? Or what was the kind of trigger for you to get into it so early?
There was a few different things, right? Funnily enough, I was talking about this with Emma just last night, and I was talking about this moment in time where, right at the start of my journey, I had some, I'd done the house, the equity release thing, had some cash sitting in the bank for the house to start this property journey. But I wanted to go after the direct to vendor stuff.
Yeah.
And my thought process was like, okay, cool, now I've got the cash, I need to spend some money on marketing. I've not got a fucking clue about marketing. I've still not got a clue about marketing. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was I had to come up with some type of plan as to like how much money I was going to put into this marketing budget. And it was a complete punt. And I ended up coming up with this figure of £35,000, right? And I'm looking at that thinking, fuck, I could buy one property or 2 properties with that.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I'm just going to lump this in the market and it could go tits up and I'd lose it all. And that whole experience, I remember thinking about it. Oh, she's do it, she's not doing it, I can't do it. No, I need to do it. All that shit.
Yeah.
For a good kind of month or so before I finally kind of bit the bullet on it. But the reason I bit the bullet on it was because I just had to try. And the ultimate decision was, or the question was, are you prepared to lose £35,000 in the pursuit of trying to make millions? And I thought that was quite an interesting kind of thing. And ultimately, I went for it. Didn't go very well. But at least that's what gave us like the kind of insight into all these different off-market deals, direct to vendor, buying at big discounts and stuff, We done some cool deals through that market right at the start. And that was just such a kind of definitive moment, I think, in the whole journey. Because we would never have, I don't think, we wouldn't have had the same experiences if we hadn't have had these deals. We wouldn't have had the deals if that money wasn't committed into marketing, And I wonder if we'd even be doing what we are now.
It's that classic question of, if you could change anything in the journey, would you? And the fear is always that, if you change something, there was a lesson within that, even the bad stuff.
Yeah.
That you needed to learn or that led you on a path to something better or it's all those elements that make it up and we talk about the need for failure through the process, because if you don't fail, you don't learn, you can't grow, you can't move things forward. So I think that's a really sage lesson through it all. What would you say was the first serious mindset journey you went on, or the first book that really made the impact, or the first training course that you went to that really made you think, fuck yeah, there's a lot in this whole mindset?
I think, everybody's heard of the Mature Paradox book, and if you've not, fucking read it because it's quality. And I think listening to that chat, like the analysis of the mind and what I've always wondered, like, why are we here? Like, what the fuck is going on with this crazy thing called life that we just like exist in? Why are we here? But then that's one thing. But why do we think what we think? And can you control the way you think? Well, previously I thought I couldn't, but now I know I can. And whether there was one or there was many, as I say, it's been a continual self-development thing, but just learning these new, whether it's, some people still view this stuff as like a lot of shite,
Yeah.
and it's quite a narrow-minded kind of approach. Like, I guess it made me really open-minded to all, like, whatever it might be that's out there. Chimp Paradox is probably the trigger, because it was the first time I've ever heard any of that stuff. But even the mindset shift to get away from my previous kind of narrow mind to reading, I still don't like reading on it, but I never knew about audiobooks and stuff. So hearing about audiobooks, being able to like consume all this new knowledge, I just found it fascinating. I remember that, like, when we were first getting started, I used to walk about with one of these earpieces. This was before AirPods and stuff, and I just used to listen to stuff from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And I just remember, like, I would go walk around my old housing estate with Kobe, and at lunchtime, and just listening to stuff. And there was this point at Western Newlands where we used to live, like, and you could look over the valley, towards the Oco Hills.
Yeah.
And I remember always stopping at that moment and just taking a deep breath in and looking at the view there, thinking, fuck me, man, there is like no limitation on the amount of opportunity that exists out here, And I used to think like that because I was in this corporate job that I hated, and I thought I couldn't break out of it. I was never going to make as much money doing anything else, and all this kind of stuff. But through, listening, taking that step to listen to audiobooks, checking out stuff like Steve Peters and the Chimp Paradox, and consuming all this new knowledge that was just fascinating to me. It was strategy as well as mindset stuff,
I don't know if you've heard much about Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he's an incredibly interesting guy, and he works very closely with a lot of people on mindset, and talks all the time about the power of mindset and how much you can achieve. And he gave this one example on a podcast the other day that someone had their thyroid removed, and they grew back another thyroid through it was someone that he was working with, and that was just one example of many of the things that the body can do, and what we are actually capable of if we can access those areas in life. And you only have to look at someone like David Goggins, who pushes himself beyond the point that any human would ever think we could achieve, just because he's mastered the mindset. And we don't understand how much we limit ourselves because of the mindset that we have, and because of the limitations that we've created or have been created for us through the life and the experiences that we've had. So the whole mindset thing is just such a massive, massive topic. But if you're not looking at it, if you're not working on it, if you're not pushing yourself forward, if you're not looking internally at yourself and understanding how you tick and the habits that you have, and I know myself that I need to be very careful about any habit that I create, because I'm a creature of habit. I like structure. I like to be repetitive in the things that I do. That's a problem if you create the wrong habit, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that I constantly need to be checking in on. But just having that self-awareness is the first step, right?
I think the awareness is one thing. I've heard loads of stories about that same type of stuff, all this mad stuff that like humans can do that, again, a lot of people will just view that as a lot of shite, not possible, something else must have happened or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to have the awareness. It's another thing to have the belief, because if you don't have the belief that you can create a new thyroid, for example, are you really going to focus, have a lot of mental focus on that thing to try and create that end result, and you just think it's a lot of shite? No, you need to believe it, and that's a choice. And people choose whether to believe one thing or another. But if you don't believe you're going to succeed in whatever it might be, how the fuck do you expect yourself to go and succeed?
I think a lot of the recurring themes and a lot of the mindset stuff that's out there, it really starts from this point of understanding that you are not your brain.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And that your brain is, a bag of electrical chemicals moving around, and it's going to feed you something, and it's still up to you to take control of that and say, is this right? Is it not? Am I being fed good information? Is it my brain again just trying to keep me safe, trying to keep me in this little place that it likes me? or is this something that I need to be listening to? Most people don't understand that. They just live their life. The brain is the thing that's feeding everything, and
that's the point. They have no separation. And I feel like I learned this quite early on. When I was kind of learning meditation, I was just trying it out, and I had no idea what to do, what to expect. I started with guided meditations, and I think it was when I was sleeping, I was putting them on as I was going to bed. So it was like a guided sleep meditation as I was going to sleep. That was when I first started. But I became very aware of this like separation between like the kind of body and the mind. I was very aware of all the thoughts. And then through that process of continually learning, it was like, can I control these? Can I like almost argue with my brain and take a different decision than what the brain's telling me to do?
Yeah.
It's quite a fucked up thing if you're not into it, but it fascinates me now, man. And that's why now, I spend so much time meditating. The amount of kind of like clarity I find from just like closing my eyes in silence, or with some kind of like background, like either frequency noise or in silence, just closing your eyes and either letting your thoughts wander or focusing in on a particular visualization, for example. I've found that is just, it's powerful on a level that I can't quite describe. Because it forces you to, you just plant seeds in your subconscious ultimately, and you end up taking all sorts of different actions because of whatever it is you've chosen to focus on.
Yeah.
Massively powerful. For anyone that's not tried it, just need to try it,
And I think it's the challenge with a lot of this stuff is, someone tries meditation once or twice and it's like, oh, that does nothing for me. It's a load of pish. Moving on. You need to be aware with this stuff and see the progress over time, right? And you need to do it in a structured way, especially if you're starting out. There's loads of apps that you can use to start to get into guided meditation. Trying to figure this stuff out on your own isn't always the easiest process. And I feel for most people it's about finding what works for them the best. Whether that's exercise in the morning to clear your mind, whether it's meditation, whether it's visualization, whether it's sitting out the front with a coffee, just gathering your thoughts for the day and being mindful of what's going on in your head. I still find day to day there's massive shifts in my thought patterns, and whether it's a good day and there's negativity there, or whether it's a bad day and there's when there's a bad day and there's negativity, and when there's a good day, and I don't know what drives that. But I do know that if I structure my way in a certain, structure my day in a certain way, I can minimize it. And more days will be positive than bad, right?
But minimize, right? You're not eliminating it. We're fucking human. Like we will have good days and bad days, and we're not like eliminating. We are just trying to minimize. We're just trying to like have that kind of marginal gain so that we can be a little bit better than we might have been if we hadn't have done it. The one thinking about back to getting started, and one of the kind of eye openers for me. I can't remember who the person was, but somebody was telling a story about a really famous guy, a really successful guy, and they were talking about how it was a reporter asking them questions, and they were like, "How do you even manage to get all these things in a day? How do you manage to fit all this stuff in? You've got this, you've got this, then you've got this, then you've got this, then you've got this," and it was all events and talks and blah blah blah. And the question was like, how do you even have the time to meditate? And then the guy was like, "Oh, what, have I got all that on today?" And they were like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I better meditate twice as long then." That's fucking brilliant. It's like if it's good enough for these guys, if it's good enough for like, how many famous people do you see now like talking about all this stuff? If it's good enough for them, and you see the success that they've created, good enough for me, and I'm willing to stick it out.
I think there's a stage you can get to through this journey where you get really laser focused on how much performance you can get from implementing this stuff.
100%.
It's all about understanding how much you can achieve with your life, and there's so many people that just go through life with no analysis of anything. They go work every morning, don't even think about whether they like the job or not.
I know.
They come home from work at night, you know, maybe a bit of time with the kids, bit of time in front of the telly, and then they're away to bed. You know,
Great.
Life is about that week's holiday they get, you know, in Spain or somewhere like that. And beyond that, there's no real analysis of what do I want from life.
That was me.
Could this be better?
That was me.
You know.
That was me in my corporate life. It's funny you used the words laser focused, and it's just funny that that's the words you picked there. Because about probably 6-9 months ago, right? Everybody's got these WhatsApp chats they're in with their mates, and they just talk a lot of shite, and it's a bit like diverting of the focus.
Yeah.
And so it might have been around kind of New Year resolution and all that, but I remember exiting all these groups, being like, guys, I'm out. This is too distracting. I'll catch up with you soon, but I'm getting laser focused. That was about the start of this year, and I did that, and it's not like I don't want to like see our friends again or whatever, or not hang out with them and stuff.
No,
it's like every fucking day, constant messaging back and forth when you're trying to get shit done. You know, it was just I just had to kind of cut that. And the words I used was laser focused as well, man.
But it comes back to the reality for most people is they are living a life of distraction.
Yeah.
Whether it's football at the weekend, whether it's hours of Netflix through the week.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the odd little hobby people have got left, right and centre.
Yeah.
You know, they can fill their life with distraction so they don't have to think about any of the big things.
Yeah.
You know, and you can easily go through life. Life is designed for you to be able to go through life.
Yeah.
Basically, it is being like a robot, just programmed.
Yeah. Maybe we are the robots, bro.
Yeah. But it genuinely does feel like through the process of discovery of mindset and whatever route you go with, whoever resonates best with you, whether it's Steve Peters or Joe Dispenza or Aubrey Marcus or you know, any of the massive wealth of people that are out there that talk about self-improvement and mindset and meditation and all this stuff, you know, you find something that's right for you.
Yeah.
And it's like an awakening. You know, it's like, you know, you start to understand who you are as a person, how you operate, how you can get the best out of yourself. And then that really is the starting point to any journey of self-improvement.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, if someone comes on our training course for property investment, you think, why the fuck are you talking about mindset at the start? I'm here to learn property investment.
Yeah.
I almost felt apologetic when we did the live course that we would start with a half a day on mindset when everybody's there ready to go. Just want to hear about deals, want to hear about finance, how do you scale a buy-out portfolio, and we're talking about mindset for a half a day, and you could almost sense it in the room. I think sometimes of this isn't what we're here for.
Yeah.
But if you don't start there, how do you achieve anything?
I think it's funny that you say that, because like about these live events and that whole kind of perception of the client and all that, and as we're getting bigger, you know, there's more guys coming on to work with us, and you know, it's just blatantly obvious. The more we are working with people, this number one thing is so relevant, man. And you can tell the guys that get it, and then they get the mindset, they go and do the work, and then they achieve the results. And then there's the other guys that are struggling with the mindset, and they're the ones that are struggling to get off the mark. And that's why we leave it, you know, and folk either get it or they don't, or at least they go and make the effort to try and get it, and then they start getting the results, you know. But absolutely, man, it's I've said before and I'll say it again, you know, the number one thing the only thing you need to battle with in business and life and whatever is all in the mind, because you can't do anything unless you control your mind. You know what I mean? Your mind will control you if you don't control it. So
let's talk about the Ryan Pinnock experience.
yeah.
I mean, I remember you telling me about that, and I thought, yeah, I mean, that's out there for even even us.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk about your experience with that.
Bizarrely, you know how on the iPhone it randomly brings up pictures, like random pictures of over the years and stuff.
Yeah.
Just last night, a picture came up of me at that event, and I was like, wow, fuck, that was 4 years ago now. You know, that's mad we're talking about it now. But Jesus, I mean, there was all sorts of mad shit on that thing. But I think the whole point of that experience, which was, I did 2 5-day events like live events, in-person events in London, right? So I'd travelled down there, 2 separate trips, about a month apart, for 5 days each time. And it was just fascinating me. Again, it was all sorts of, I can't even remember what it was, all these types of things, but you had to do an exercise where it's kind of like journaling, it was basically just you took the notepad and you started writing down it, but it was about, you had to think back as far as you could possibly go to the point that you were sperm in the womb, right? That was the thing. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? You know what I mean? How are we going to get back that far? But then it was like, y'all just went away and sat with a notepad and a pen for an hour and a half, right? Silence. Everybody's just sitting, kind of writing. And you had to write. Whatever it was that came to your mind, you had to take a minute, like close your eyes, focus on that, go as far back as you can.
Yep.
And, everybody done nothing but this for an hour and a half. Like, that's a long fucking time. And I remember coming up with all sorts of shit. It was crazy. Think back to your earliest memory, all that type of stuff. And it was a comfort zone stretcher, right? I mean, I've talked about the whole kind of, for the listeners, but this initial experience, first time I ever saw the guy at a live event. I think that was a 2-day event down in London as well. And he made us all kind of walk around the room and bow at each other, And I remember, and not everybody did it, right? There must have been about maybe 200, 300 people in this room in London. And then they moved all the chairs to the side and everybody started walking around the room. And he said, like, this is what I want you to do. You basically, you kind of capture somebody's attention. You like do the pray sign thing to them. You then get down on your fucking knees and you bow. And then they like do it in return. It was weird as fuck. Like, it was the weirdest thing I've ever done. But it was just so fascinating because it was very clear to me then, all the people at the side of the room, they weren't willing to at least try it, to like just see what happened, to challenge their mind a little bit, And it's funny because there's a few folk that have kind of went down to that now, man, and the level of success that we've created through what we've done and what they've done is like, and they're still sitting on the sidelines, they're still allowing their mind to control their output, excuse me, and I just always remember when he first said that, the natural thing your head thinks is, what the fuck? I'm not doing that. Yeah. And again, I was like, no, fuck this. I'm going to get balls deep in this and start bowing to folk and see what the fuck happens, And so many experiences, though, for working with that guy made me realise it was all about just challenging your mind. And it made me realise how kind of powerful your mind can be, ultimately.
Yeah.
Thinking about the steroid thing again, like, how the fuck does that work? I don't know. But he gave loads of examples of people that he'd worked with that had achieved like crazy shit like that, It was somebody had like cured themselves of cancer because of the way that, managed their thought processes and stuff like that. Folk that are loads of different examples, man. But I think the two things I wanted to learn right at the start of our journey, one was, of course, the strategies and how to implement all of that. And two was the mindset to make sure that I kept going, And that was the two things I focused on, and it seems to have served us well.
Let's maybe go into a few examples of where mindset has served us well.
Yeah.
And where, had you not been the person that you became, it might have been a different result. So have a think about an example. I mean, there's a few that kind of spring to my mind. I think the probably the most obvious one is the Lanarkshire portfolio that was quite early in our journey, right?
Many, man. Yeah. I mean, how many examples? There's tons of examples. Tons of examples of our journey where we've pushed our comfort zones. We've taken big risks, but calculated risks, right? With the end result, the objective in mind, and we were willing to go through a lot of shit that a lot of people wouldn't do. And I asked this question to our training clients recently: who wants what we've got now? Everybody's like, yeah, put their hands up. Definitely, I love it. I want all the properties. I want all the businesses. Love doing what you're doing. Blah blah blah. And then the next question is, well, who would have been willing to do everything that we've done to get us to where we are now? The hands go fucking down, man. Hands go down, because that's their minds just being like, oh, fuck that, that's too crazy. Yeah. You talk about Lanarkshire, the whole way that was structured, the 60k front end, the guys we were buying it from, the fucking new lender we'd never done business with. There was so much shit on the go in that. That's one example.
I mean, it's fascinating because you probably couldn't do that deal now. I mean, the way that we structured that, you wouldn't get the finance now because of interest rates and all that sort of stuff. So that's not to say though we wouldn't have found a way to make it work. And that was the difference. I think at the time we were laser focused on getting that deal done. But as you say, huge risk on the line.
Yeah.
And this is the whole point. In order to achieve anything significant, there has to be huge risk along the way. There has to be huge bunch. I always go back to Elon Musk and the fact that he made hundreds of millions on PayPal. He could have just sat back and done nothing for the rest of his life. But he took all of that money and invested it into 3 or 4 absolute moonshots. That's why he's a billionaire now, because he's willing to take the massive risks that no one else will take.
But I mean, even if we're talking about the Lanarkshire deal, and it's one thing getting the deal done, right, then it's another thing managing it, and then everything changes. The interest rates are up. We've had that stock for coming up 3 years now. And there's been ups and downs through that journey. I mean, right now, if you knew it was going to, if you knew the cost of finance was going to be what it is now, would you have still done the deal back then? Probably fucking not.
No.
But this is just another point in time. Another year down the line, or maybe not even as long as that, because we're working on this big refinance just now, right? In the near future, it's going to be a very different situation again. But you've got to be ready to take the fucking punches, man.
But this is the thing that's probably caught me by surprise more than anything is, when you're doing as much as we do and when you start to scale to the level that we have, the punches come daily. Amanda asked me at the end of every day, how was your day? And sometimes I struggle to answer because there's been a bunch of good things, a bunch of bad things, and the day is sort of leveled out. Yesterday was probably one of those days. We still don't have an answer on the refinance, stringing us along a bit. We done a few good deals yesterday and moved a few things forward. And there's some days where you get nothing but punches.
Oh, man.
And then you have to figure out how...
Mental punches.
The
mental punches. Like, can you deal with the mental punches? Because it's really just fucking noise. It's administration. It's just communication. It's like the difficulty is the almost like the stress factor of it. But if you can learn to manage that, then you can keep pushing forward, man. And that's what we do well.
I think it's just a realisation that as an entrepreneur, as you scale... the problems get bigger, the opportunities get bigger, and the roller coaster is just more extreme.
That's it. And you look at these other things. We've got like Dubai stuff going on now, Monaco. There's many different doors opening for us now because of the stage we're at in business that we would never have got involved in if it wasn't for us going through all that pain. I was going to say at the start, but we continue to go through the pain, right? I mean, as you say, it doesn't matter on a daily basis. There's going to be wins, there's going to be losses. You just need to control the mental side and keep pushing forward regardless of the discomfort.
I mean, it's massively important. So let's talk about some tools that people can implement in their day-to-day life to improve mindset, overall well-being. I always like it when there's some sort of actionable takeaways. Obviously we recommend a lot of books and various different things people should read. But let's talk about some of the tools that you can use in your day-to-day life to keep on top of your mindset.
Well, I've got quite an extensive list, as you will know. And so I'll rhyme them off. I like to do stretching, breathing, meditation, affirmation, visualization, exercise, Shakti mat, and more recently, as the audience might be aware, I've got this big bad boy outhouse with my sauna and steam room set up. Now, all of that shit combined is really, I find is massively powerful, right? I squeeze a lot into a very short period of time. And in the mornings. I like to get up early though as well, which is another thing that, again, a lot of folks struggle to do because society says you shouldn't wake up at 4 a.m, so that's too crazy, so they don't do it. I like to do it. I think it's fucking essential to do it because I don't know how I could possibly fit in all that stuff, maybe say at the end of the day. I was asking Emma just the other night, do you think I should change this up? Because, sometimes I'm proper knackered at 8 o'clock at night and I just need to go to my bed and the kind of trade-off, it could be the case that I kind of go and do that stuff at night, but I just find that dealing with kids and trying to get them to sleep as well, and if they don't go to bed at the time you want them to, then you just wouldn't do it, I don't think.
No.
So that's kind of my routine, really, and I find that I find it works well for me.
And I think those are things that set you in the right mindset for the day. So doing them at the end of the day, you're not going to get the same value, you know?
I'm telling you, man, that I have noticed this. Like, I don't think I kind of used to notice it as much as I do now for whatever reason. I think I pay attention to it a lot more than I used to. But when I'm up in the morning early and I go through my full routine, what a difference in not just the way I feel there and then in terms of getting in the house and getting to work. No, see, the whole day, I'm just much more alert. Like, I'm much more focused. I feel much more kind of driven, just better, you know. And then, but then I struggle because I need to have like a kind of, almost like a kind of workout day, a routine day, and then rest day, routine day, rest day. Because I'm also exercising for an hour, and I like to try and push myself when I'm doing that as well. So I find it a really tough thing. I'd prefer to exercise or have the routine like way more than just like 4 days a week or whatever.
Yeah,
I'd like 5 days, I'd like 6 days, but equally I respect my sleep, you know, and I always try and get my right amount of sleep. So
I feel like there is an inevitable catch up when you get to the weekend of, you know, just that extra hour or so sleep can really make the difference to your revival for the next game week and ready to go in.
Absolutely.
I found that I'm happy with the early mornings during the week, but, you know, I like to, I mean, the latest I can sleep is like 7 a.m. anyway, but, you know, I like to have that little bit extra time at the weekends because I feel like it gives me more of a kick, and there'll be the occasional Sunday where there's a little afternoon nap factor in there as well. And, you know, I feel like it helps me, so, you know, it's not wasted time for sure.
I've started appreciating the afternoon nap.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I never used to nap, but now when I nap, I really value it, you know, just lying on the couch, chilling, some chilled music on in the background, you know. Yeah. But that look, sleep's another thing, you know. I again, along this journey, when we were getting started, I used to do this. I had this belief. This was before I went on the Ryan Pinnock thing, actually, and I learned a lot about that belief through doing the work with him. But I used to believe, in order to be successful, I must wake up at 4. I must work all day, and I never used to exercise when we were getting started, you know, putting all away, blah, blah, blah. But I would be up at 4 and I would be in bed at 11 at night, you know, and that would be my thing. Now, don't get me wrong, I would break for lunch and I would walk the dog and then we would have dinner, like, and stuff, but I would be working 100% the rest of the time.
Yeah.
But I again, some own experiences really, that shit just leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And you don't need to work like that in order to be successful.
Yeah.
You know? But at the time, that was my belief, so I acted accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, but now I respect my sleep. I get good sleep. If I need catch up, then I catch up with my sleep, you know, have naps and stuff like that. Because if you've not had enough sleep, that is one thing that will completely fuck your day.
Yeah,
you know.
You know, it comes back to, you know, the kind of maybe rhetoric from the 80s, 90s was all about hard work, working harder than everybody else, putting in the hours, putting in the shift. But now the world's moving forward so quickly. Technology is moving forward so quickly. It's much more about working smarter. Totally. And it's much more about having the skills to be able to understand what are the things that are really going to move the dial here today and what are not. And what can I shed? Yeah. What can I get rid of? What is adding no value? What can I push on to someone else? And what is going to move the dial for the business going forward today? And you know, the next question I'm going to ask you is, if you had to eliminate everything but one thing from that morning routine, what would it be? For me, I would say probably the one thing that I would hold on to more than anything is the time in the morning to plan the day and get your head straight of what is the value add activities in the day, what am I trying to avoid from yesterday that didn't work, you know, that whole kind of learning process going forward every day.
Yeah.
Of how can I get better today? How can I get more done?
I'm only allowed to keep one thing.
Yeah.
All the things I do.
Yeah.
Me. Whoa. That's a tough.
No, your answer would be if time restraint, you just get up earlier. But no, let's make this difficult.
I honestly think, albeit like I've got this kind of 20-minute stretching session where I'm doing I'm stretching, I'm breathing, meditating, visualizing, affirming, like I do all that kind of at the same time. But if I was only allowed to do one thing, man, that's tough. I'm going to say visualization, because I don't think anything can compare to what happens when you really put the time in to visualize this thing in the future. When you play that scene over and over in your mind, I don't think there's anything like that. Now, I've got this scene that I play over and over in my mind and I'm still not there yet. But that's the fucking point. It keeps me driving towards this moment in time that I'm not quite there yet. You know?
Well, I mean, this is the issue, right? You know, at the point where you do get to that visualization, and you need to create a new one, and it's the age-old adage that, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they finally achieve what they were aiming for the last 10 years, can be one of the most deflating times in their journey, because what's next? You know?
And that is really fascinating to me, right? And I think that if it wasn't for hearing that type of story from other people, if other people hadn't have talked about that experience of deflation at that point of success almost, then I think that I would be deflated or I will be deflated when I get to that point. But see, because I've heard so much from like other entrepreneurs, other success stories, and they've all talked about this moment in time, I almost feel like I'm fucking prepared for it.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for whenever I hit that moment in time to not let it get me down. I'm probably just going to like take some time off, go to holiday and shit, and just like reflect on life. But one thing I'll definitely be doing, as you say, is creating a new visualization and going working towards that. I'm going to be grateful for everything up to that point, and I'm going to celebrate that success. One thing we have really never fucking done. You know, this whole celebrate success thing, because you're just so focused on like the next thing.
What's next? Yeah.
But this thing for me will be, I kind of define a moment in life, and I'm going to make a point of celebrating it rather than letting it get me down.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm only aware of that fucking risk because now there's all these podcasts and audiobooks and all this type of stuff where you can learn from other people that have been so open about that type of situation, you know. So
the summation of this for me is probably one of the biggest lessons that 99% of people in life will never learn, is that life is about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And if you can't find joy in the journey, you're never going to reach the destination. You're never going to have that moment of happiness that you've been visualizing in your head for so long, because you have to realize that the fulfilling part is the journey to get there.
And I think I'm quite good with that now, but again, it's only because I've been exposed to all these other people talking about that. You know? I feel like I am like just loving the ride, you know. And there was a quote I heard from it was Gary Vaynerchuk, and I don't know what he was talking about buying, but it was some like a football club or a basketball club or a baseball club or some shit like that. And he was talking about how he was going to buy the Knicks, call it, right? And again, he was getting interviewed and they were asking him, so like, when are you going to buy the Knicks? And he was like, well, do you know what? I might never actually buy them, but I'm really fucking enjoying trying to get there. I thought that's fucking brilliant, you know. Might never go and buy this big crazy yacht or whatever the fuck it might be, but see the ride to get to a position where you could go and buy the thing. Yeah, that's fucking cool, man.
That's
I love that. So yeah,
I mean, I really think we've really just scratched the surface of this massive topic that is mindset. There's a lot more we could start to go into now in terms of specific examples, not just from our own journey, but from the journeys of others that we're supporting through our training and coaching business, and just seeing those real life examples of this mindset stuff in play, and just how important it is. It's so hard on an hour podcast to explain how fucking big and how important this subject is. Yeah. But what I think we'll do is in the near future scheduling another call where we'll go in a bit more depth into some of these subjects. You know, we've talked about a lot of various different tools. We'll maybe get into the guts of some of it, and explore it a bit more. But thanks, Mr. Laurie Duncan.
Thanks for having me, man.
This has been the Real Wealth Podcast. I'm Alex Robertson, and thanks for joining us on this wealth journey.
Cheers.